Hey y'all, what's going on? Getting ready to get some of these. We're doing some Euro mounts. This is Hilljack Zach deer he killed back in December. It's not ready yet. It needed rehydrated. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull it out, and I'm going to take and stick my deer in. And I'll have this one in here, have one in here boiling while I'm cutting the skin off the other. We'll see how this goes. I've never done this before. I've watched a video maybe 3 or 4 months ago. We're going to see how it goes. Worst thing that happens, I ruin them or they explode and crack in half. Whatever. So here's the deal. This is the worst part of this whole project. Cutting off all this skin, which the skin's not bad, and I've done that multiple times to tan deer hides and take them off the heads. But cutting off all the skin and then having to chunk off all that meat. And when you think about it, you watch this process, you've got to cut that jawline off. You're looking at a full-length tongue, all kinds of glands down in a hole. And it's pretty nasty, and you got to be pretty strong stomached, which I am, but I'm just letting you know it's pretty nasty. That said, if you can get through this without being too grossed out or anything like that, this is the worst part, and it is all smooth sailing once you get the meat off. It's just getting the meat off, getting the eyes out. I use a screwdriver, poke the eyes. They actually make them and a lot of the membrane that's around them, the supporting muscle inside, to come out, and then cut all the way around it. Just trying to get as much of it out as you can. And then you're going to get to the point to where you're down to the skull and down in the brain, and you've got to take a screwdriver in all those holes and just mix that stuff up real good before you even cook it. And then after you cook it, everything will shrink, it'll get hard, and it makes it come out a lot easier. But this particular process right here is not for those with a weak stomach. Now, disclaimer, I made this clear up front. I have never done this before. And so anybody say, well, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. Yeah, I should have invested all my money in oil and maybe even in Tesla and some rocketry. But you probably didn't do that either. So anyhow, you learn, you can watch how other people do it. You're not going to remember it all most of the time, but watch a couple videos of doing this and then just try it. And the worst thing that happen, it make you sick, can't stand it, it's just too gross, whatever. Thing comes out smelling awful, your wife won't even let you bring it in the house. Any of these things are possibilities. So you do the best you can. Life is trial and error. Every single thing we do is. And so just do the best you can. Get off as much as you can. That's how I did it. Now, in hindsight, you probably could have left more meat on it and blew more off with the pressure washer in the end after it was cooked. And it does come off easier after it's cooked anyway. But that said, I hadn't done it before, and I wanted to get as much off of it as I can before I even cooked it. All right, this one's ready. And I gotta tell you, that's the most disgusting piece of taxidermy work I've ever done. Now friends, let me tell you something. I've done deer, I've done ducks, I've done geese, actually mounted them, but this Euro crap, it ain't for me. It's pretty gross, and you know, I feel bad for anybody that watches this and puts themselves through it. That said, we're gonna get the ball on this one. This guy's got a little bit longer to go, and actually could use some more water added in there, but he's about done, ready to go to start digging out the insides and all that. But this ain't nearly as nasty as what that was. And I'll tell you, this just ain't for everybody. It ain't for hardly anybody. So if you got a queasy stomach at all, don't even think about trying to do a Euro yourself. You're gonna hate it. Now, once you get to this part, things start coming off a whole lot easier. Now, one of the guys that I watched do this there a couple months back, when he started out, he said, yeah, you just pretty much just start hacking away. And nobody shows the process, though. And I mean, it takes a little while to do this process. So I thought, well, I'll speed it up 10 times and you can actually get an idea of what you're getting into, straightening that little pieces off and getting it loose. And in the end, too, I realized that at this point, I probably could have went just straight to pressure washing. And I didn't know. Like I said, I had never done it before. And I didn't actually get to the pressure washing until the next day. So I had to heat them up again. And that's something that's pretty important, to make sure that that meat is hot, that everything's hot when you start to blow it off again. Because everything is just like washing dishes or anything else. It just comes off so much easier if it's hot. All right, I got these babies down, got as much meat off of them as I'm really gonna get before we move on to the next step. And some might have said I'll take more time, put more time into trying to get this stuff off than it really needed to be. But that said, we're moving on to the next step. Now that's pretty much it. You just spraying until the meat comes off. You got to spray down into the nose canal. You got to spray from the backside through the throat and up into the nostrils. And there's a good bit of meat that'll come out of there. And if you don't see a good string of meat come out of there, it's still in there. It's got to come out right. And another thing I didn't show, I didn't pull it out, and I've seen other guys did do it before they even got to this process, was pulling out that nose cartilage. And I didn't do that. I waited until after I had it pressure washed, and then I took the same tweezers that I used to pick the brain liner out. But this is pretty much just what it looks like. Spray, spray, spray. All right, y'all, got them pressure washed down, and that was fun. And not really, because I'm soaked from about my knees down. But that said, it's kind of to be expected. And our weather right now, it's about 37 degrees. So I'm a little cold in the legs. That's all right. I'm kind of tough, sort of. Maybe I'll complain a little bit. If I was really tough, I wouldn't be complaining to you about it, right? Well, anyway, this is what we got. Looks pretty good. There's a few little nuggies, and you get to looking in here that I might have to scrape out. But for the most part, I mean, everything is off of that. I mean, there ain't nothing but just some little chunky pieces. Now, moving on next, there's a lining for the brain that's still in there, and I gotta take something and work it out of both of them, try to scrape as much of that out as I can. With that said, both of these dudes cleaned up really well, pressure washer really worked. That was a good idea, so we're gonna move on to the next step. So this is really what it looks like. You gotta reach up in there with the skinny of pliers. I had surgical pliers, and get as much of that brain lining out of there. It's all gotta come out or that thing's gonna stink. All right, here's that next step. We're degreasing, and just going to use some of this palm olive dish soap to degrease. Now I have some professional taxidermy degreasing formula for hides that I've got from Ohio Taxidermy Supply, but I'm not going to use it on this. Just dish soap is just fine for what we're doing here, and that's all degreaser is. It's a really heavy soap like this. But anyway, we'll degrease them, and then on to the next step. All right, so what you're looking at here is both these deer heads are soaking in a mixture of water and 40 volume hair developer, heavy grade hydrogen peroxide. In fact, I'll show you a picture of the bottle, exactly what it looks like. That product right there, Salon Care. And so I made a mistake of not wrapping the antlers to keep that stuff off of the antlers. So it made the edges look a little white, but it really didn't look that bad. But that said, soaked in here for about a half hour and then set them out to dry in the sun. All right, so there you go. Them babies came out really nice. I've never done these before. It's my first time. I'm sure I screwed something up. I know a few things I probably could have done a little differently, but that said, I've never done these before. They came out great. They don't have any flesh on them. They're nice and white looking, and something you can be really happy you did yourself. But I'm gonna tell you straight up, it's nasty in the start, and if you don't have the stomach for it, just don't even try it. And on the other hand, thinking about that too, if you think that you're Mr. Superman, I can handle that, and you get in it and you start gagging, find a buddy that doesn't have the same reflex actions, or take it to a professional. Don't put yourself through it, because I heard if you vomit too many times, it causes throat cancer. My boss told me that. Hey, y'all have a good time, and don't forget, come back when you can stay later, you smuck.